Alamos Gold reported its fourth quarter results with record free cash flow. Though production came in lower than expected after a challenging year at its Canadian operations. Joining us now is the company's CEO, John McCluskey. John, thanks very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's talk about the positives first. Where were your standouts for production?
We had a great year at Mulatos, and that marks something like 20 years of production at Mulatos. We've produced close to 4 million ounces at that mine over that time. We've probably made in the order of $800 or $900 million in profit. That's been an exceptional operation for us. We had a great year on exploration. It's been the 7th consecutive year where we've expanded our reserves net of depletion. And we did particularly well at Island Gold, where we had a significant increase in reserves. So reserves were up over 16 million ounces across the company, and 8 million of those ounces are at our Island Gold complex. So that's been just a tremendous success for us. You know, and despite the fact that we didn't produce quite as much as we had intended, we still hit record revenue, record free cash flow, record earnings, and that was, you know, we still did quite well. We produced 545,000 ounces of gold at good costs, and that accounted for a very strong cash flow for the year.
And how is Mulatos looking? You said it's been great for 20 years. Where do you see it going over the next while?
Well, the big transition is coming up now. We've been investing quite heavily in development of a new deposit down there called PDA. It's higher grade underground, and what we've typically been mining is low grade open pit up till now. But we're looking at something like just over 1 million ounces in reserves at the PDA zone, and we're building a new mill, and we'll have that in production by 2027. That'll be the year we transition from open pit oxides to a high grade underground mining. So we're looking forward to that. We were one of the only companies in Mexico to get a permit of any consequence last year, and it was for the development of that mine. And it's going to mean that Mulatos will continue to produce well into the end of the 2030s, and I believe beyond.
Okay, and then the Island Gold District, there's an expansion. You call it transformational. What are the changes?
So we acquired Island Gold when it was a very small deposit, and back when it wasn't really very fashionable to do so, we were exploring very aggressively there. And we've taken reserves from under 1 million ounces to over 8 million ounces in that district. And that's net of close to 2 million ounces of depletion that we've mined in that district over time. So it's been just phenomenal growth. There's very little to compare with it. In fact, I was looking for an analogy for it, and the closest I could come to was the Golden Giant mine in Hemlo and was discovered in the 1980s and produced through the 1990s. And that's the only thing in Canada that shows anything close to what we're achieving here. It's very high grade. It's just under 11 grams. And we've really expanded the operation. We've been investing in a big project, putting in a shaft with the idea of going from ramp-driven mining to shaft-driven mining. It's a much lower cost, much more effective way to go. And we're going to be there by the end of this year. The shaft is almost at shaft bottom now. We'll have all the infrastructure completed by the year end. And that mine will transition towards the end of this year from a ramp operation to an underground operation. So that's going to drive the higher production and the lower cost.
And that's a reason for optimism for the Canadian operations and most of the challenges behind you now?
Well, the challenges we faced were really temporary. We were dealing with a very significant cold climate. We basically had one of the coldest winters in this region for something like 20 years. It's as long as anybody can remember. So we had lots of snowfall along with that cold weather, and it's the snowfall that's the biggest problem. It caused the road closures, and that really has an impact on the operation. It will be less of an impact going forward because ultimately we're going from running the primary mill at site, what's called the Magino mill. We're running that off of compressed natural gas, and that means we're dependent on regular deliveries of that gas. We get 2 deliveries a week, and if it doesn't come in, we don't have any fuel. But going forward, we're hooking up to grid power. We've got a power line project that's underway, and that'll be completed towards the end of this year. Okay. And we'll no longer be reliant on those deliveries. So that's going to make a very significant impact on that operation, make us less vulnerable to weather conditions.
All right. And what's the latest on you had to refile your financial statements in December?
That was actually a non-issue. It was actually our annual statement, and it was essentially a glitch in the software that was used by our auditors, and there was some miswording in their audit opinion. So we had to refile it with the correct wording. That's it. There was no change in our numbers or anything like that. It was our financials. Were as we originally filed them. We filed them literally 2 hours apart. So the numbers were all the same. It was just the wording and the audit opinion had to change.
Okay, I appreciate you clarifying that. You returned almost 81 million to shareholders in 2025, doubling 2024. What's 2026 looking like when it comes to dividends and buybacks?
Well, we just announced a pretty significant increase in our dividend, and that's not something a company would typically do when they're going through a period of fairly heavy capital expenditure, which we're going to be in for the next 3 years as we build out this Island Gold expansion project, plus our new Lynn Lake mine, which will start construction in the spring. So that's not typically a time you'd expect a company to be increasing the dividend, but we bumped it by 60%. So we're taking up from about 45 million a year to about 67 million a year. Okay. And I don't think that's going to be the last dividend increase you see from us.
John, I don't mean to cut you off, but we're out of time. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
John McCluskey is the CEO of Alamos Gold.